I died because a city bus jumped onto the sidewalk to avoid one very confident pigeon. 10 seconds later, I stood in another boy's body while 200 students demanded that I receive the worst summon in the academy. The pigeon had escaped. I had not. I held a cracked brown crystal over a silver summoning circle. A tall instructor stood beside me with one hand raised. His name was Marden. The memories inside my new head told me he controlled the first-year examinations, the student grants, and most of the people currently laughing at me. The same memories told me my name was Auron. I was 17, poor, and ranked last among the apprentice summoners. That explained the laughter. It did not explain the crystal. Every student had paid for a clear blue summoning core. The object in my hand looked like a burnt potato that had lost a fight with a hammer. Rusk leaned against the front rail. His level 7 Ashwolf wore a silver collar worth more than everything Auron had owned. Rusk smiled at the crowd. "Be careful," he called. "That crystal may summon a sick chicken." The students laughed again. Even the Ashwolf opened its mouth. I decided it was panting, but the timing felt personal. Lissa did not laugh. She stood near the registry table with a white falcon on her shoulder. She looked from my crystal to the open record book. "That is not his assigned core," she said. The noise weakened. Marden lowered his hand very slowly. "Are you accusing the examination office of fraud?" "I am reading the number in the book." Lissa pointed at the page. "His core ended in 42. That one ends in 19. Marden closed the book. "The outer shell was replaced after a safety inspection," he said. "The candidate has already delayed us. Begin." It was a clean answer. It was also a lie. I knew because Marden never looked at the crystal. He looked at Rusk. The Ash Wolf's collar held a blue stone marked 42. If I refused, Marden would mark me absent, cancel my grant, and send Auron's debt to the city workhouse. So I placed the cracked core in the circle. "I will begin," I said. The crowd became quiet. They wanted to hear my future break. I cut my thumb with the ritual knife. One drop of blood struck the crystal. Brown smoke rose from the floor. It smelled like wet socks placed on a hot stove. Something coughed inside the smoke. A small green figure appeared on one knee. He was thin. One ear was torn. He wore a rope belt and a piece of cloth that had given up on being trousers. He had no weapon, no armor, and no shoes. The measuring pillar flashed, and Marden read the result aloud. "Goblin Laborer, Level 1, Strength 4, Health 16, no combat skill, estimated active time 9 minutes." For one breath, nobody moved. Then 200 people exploded with laughter. Rusk bent over the rail. "A Level 1 Goblin. My wolf eats stronger things by accident." The goblin stared at the ground. His hands trembled. Marden lifted his voice for the stands. "Candidate Auron has produced a summon below the academy minimum. His scholarship is cancelled. His dormitory place will be reassigned tonight. His final ranking is 200 out of 200. A clerk named Pavin hesitated beside the scoreboard. "Instructor, the practical test has not happened yet." "There is nothing to test." Marden took a red stamp and pressed it against my name. The mark was large enough for the highest row to see. That was the injustice. It was fast, official, and public. Rusk came through the arena gate. His wolf followed. The goblin shrank away as the beast sniffed him. "Let me check if it can run," Rusk said. He raised one boot to kick the goblin. I stepped between them. His boot stopped against my shin. Pain climbed my leg. I did not move. "The examination is finished," I said. "Do not touch my summon." Rusk looked surprised. The old Auron had always lowered his eyes. This version had been hit by a bus. A rich boy's boot did not rank high among my recent problems. "You want to protect that for 9 minutes?" Rusk asked. 8 now. Several students laughed, but the sound had changed. They were watching me instead of the goblin. Lissa was watching too. Rusk stepped back. "Enjoy your 8 minutes, King of Garbage." The moment he said the word king, a cold voice told me that the hidden class called King of the Summoned Folk had awakened. My class had one ability. It was called the Citizen Bond. A normal summon was temporary property. It could not grow, choose work, own anything, or refuse a command. My bond broke that rule. A summon could agree to become a permanent free citizen, gain experience, learn a profession, and teach others. There were prices. The bond required 10 mana. I had 12. A citizen needed food, shelter, tools, and rest. I could not dismiss or revive him. He could leave whenever he chose. It was the worst ability an owner could receive. It was the best ability a nation could have. I looked down at the goblin. "Can you understand me?" I asked. He nodded. Do you have a name? He shook his head. Do you want one? The goblin finally looked up. His eyes were yellow and very alert. Grum, he whispered. Grum, I said. I can make you permanent. You will not be forced to obey me. You will need to work because we currently own no food and no house. You may leave whenever you wish. Do you agree? The arena had gone silent. Rusk stared as if I had asked a chair for permission to sit on it. Marden laughed first. The failed candidate is negotiating with a disposable monster. Grum looked at the students. Then he looked at the wolf. Then he looked at my leg where Rusk's boot had left a dark mark. He placed one fist against his chest. Grum agrees. I spent 10 mana. Brown smoke vanished. A crown mark appeared on Grum's hand. The measuring pillar rang so loudly that Pavin dropped his pen. Grum's remaining time disappeared from the pillar. Marden checked the device twice. Measurement error, he said. Then measure him again, Lissa replied. Marden's mouth tightened. The examination is over. He ordered the next student forward, but half the crowd kept looking at Grum. The last ranked failure had left the arena with a summon that refused to vanish. That was our first rumor. I owned 3 copper coins. Grum owned a rope belt. Together, our national treasury could purchase 1 sad carrot. Pavin caught us outside and placed an iron key in my palm. Your dormitory seal is cancelled. The old supply cellar behind the west wall is empty. Take it before Marden remembers it exists. Why help me? Because I wrote 42 in the registry this morning. Our first piece of land was a cellar nobody wanted. Lissa waited beside the west path. Her falcon held a paper bag in its claws. This bag contains 2 bread rolls and dried meat, she said. I want to observe your goblin before the academy learns why he is permanent. Grum moved behind me. Lissa noticed. Poor choice of words. She handed the bag to Grum instead of me. He opened it, smelled the bread, and looked suspicious. Then he bit it. His eyes widened. He ate half the roll, then broke the rest into 2 pieces and offered them to us. Lissa stared at the bread in his small hand. Temporary summons do not share food, she said. Citizens do. That was when she first understood what I had received. The cellar had 1 room, a cracked stove, 6 empty shelves, 3 broken chairs, and a leaking roof. A broom had lost most of its straw. Rainwater filled a bucket. Grum walked through it as if inspecting a palace. He checked the walls and roof, then pushed 1 chair until it collapsed. Correct decision, I said. Lissa covered a smile. Then the bucket moved. A gray rat the size of a cooking pot climbed over its edge. 5 more appeared behind the shelves. Lissa raised 1 hand. Her falcon spread its glass wings. Wait, I said. Grum had taken the broken broom handle. He held it like a spear, but his grip was wrong and his knees were shaking. 6 rats, I said. 8 health each. You have 16. Use the room. Grum looked at the room. The fear remained. Something else appeared beside it. Calculation. We made a narrow passage with shelves. Grum tied chair rope to the bucket. I placed breadcrumbs near the stove. Lissa watched the test Marden had refused to give us. 2 rats charged. Grum dropped the bucket, flooded the stones, and sent them sliding apart. He stabbed the first 3 times. He gained 6 experience. The cold voice spoke only to me, but the measuring charm on Lissa's wrist flashed. It gained experience, she said. I corrected. He gained experience. He used a shelf against the second rat, lost 3 health to 1 bite, and drove the handle down. 6 more experience. The other 4 rushed the passage. Grum trapped them behind a ruined chair while I held the shelf. He struck through the gaps and turned 1 rat away from my hand. After the 4th kill, his experience reached 24. Grum rose to level 2. His health increased from 16 to 22. His strength rose from 4 to 6. More important, the wounds on his arm stopped bleeding. Lissa's measuring charm cracked down the middle. She looked at the 2 pieces. That charm cost 12 silver. Grum killed the 5th rat while she was still mourning it. He blocked the last rat's escape and finished the fight. His total experience reached 36. He remained level 2, but the cold voice told me he had qualified for a basic profession. Builder and trapper were available. He could choose only one. Your choice, I told him. Grum looked at the leaking roof. Then he looked at the 6 dead rats. Builder. The crown mark darkened. Grum became an apprentice builder. The profession gave knowledge, not materials. We still needed boards, nails, pitch, and a ladder. It also told me exactly what we needed next. The Academy's practical board offered 12 silver for clearing the West Cellar infestation. Pavan had not mentioned it, perhaps because nobody expected a level 1 goblin to complete the work. We carried the 6 rat tails to the evening assessment in a flour sack. Students still filled the public ranking yard. Rusk stood first. I remained at position 200. Pavan counted the tails. 6 confirmed, he announced. West Cellar contract completed. Reward 12 silver. Practical score 60 points. The board clicked. My name moved from position 200 to position 93. The courtyard became quiet. Rusk pushed forward. That goblin did not kill them. Lissa raised her falcon's memory crystal. I recorded everything. Rats are not a test, Rusk said. Marden had arrived behind him. He should have ended the argument. Instead, he gave Rusk the rope he needed to hang himself. A formal challenge would settle the matter, Marden said. The students pressed closer. Rusk smiled. My ash wolf against the goblin. If the goblin lasts 1 minute, he keeps the points. Grum had 20 health. The wolf had at least 80. A fair fight was suicide, but the arena had barriers, ropes, sandpits, and a blue dye pool. 3 minutes of preparation, I said. The wolf starts behind the east line. No attacks against summoners. Rusk agreed before Marden could think. 200 students filled the stands. Pavan activated the official score crystal. Lissa stood beside it. Grum and I entered with 4 ropes, 1 barrier, and the broken broom handle. We set a low rope, a swinging barrier, a line around the dye pool, and a loop under loose sand. Do not beat the wolf, I told him. Move it. Grum nodded. The horn sounded. The ash wolf crossed half the arena in 1 leap. Grum rolled aside and raised the barrier. The wolf broke through, but its charge turned toward the dye pool. Rusk shouted, "Flame bite!" Red fire covered the wolf's jaws. Grum threw the broom handle past its head. Predators were powerful and easy to insult with a stick. Its rear paw entered the loop. Grum pulled. The wolf slid into the rope around the pool, and the blue basin tipped. Water and dye hit the wolf. They also hit Rusk, who had stepped across the summoner line to shout instructions. The best student in the academy stood blue from his hair to his boots. He looked like an angry blueberry with money. The stands erupted. The wolf sneezed blue foam. Grum climbed onto the barrier. 1 minute passed, then 2. Rusk ordered another charge. The wolf reached the next sandpit and stopped. It had learned more than its master. At 3 minutes, the score crystal rang. Pavan raised his voice. Challenge completed. The goblin survived without receiving damage. Tactical score, 120. Additional reward, 18 silver. My total money reached 30 silver. My rank moved from 93 to 41. Grum received 40 experience for defeating a stronger opponent without killing it. He rose to level 3. His strength reached 8. His health reached 30. My class gained its first level from the growth of a citizen. My mana increased from 12 to 16. My own strength rose from 5 to 7. Power, money, and status had all moved before sunset. Marden stared at the scoreboard. He could not erase an official crystal record in front of 200 witnesses. Rusk wiped blue dye from his face. This proves nothing. Grum picked up the broken broom handle and offered it to him. The laughter became twice as loud. Rusk left without taking it. His wolf followed at a careful distance, perhaps worried that blue anger was contagious. We spent 8 silver at the market. I bought 4 potatoes, 3 onions, a bag of mushrooms, a short piece of smoked sausage, salt, lamp oil, 6 iron nails, and a small loaf of dark bread. Lissa paid 2 silver for roof pitch after I promised to repay her. Grum repaired the worst roof beam by lantern light. I climbed where he pointed and struck the nails. Lissa's falcon carried strips of wood to the upper ledge. Nobody called it glorious. The rain stopped landing inside our home. Then we cooked. The sausage released fat into the old iron pot. I added onions and waited until their edges turned gold. Grum sliced mushrooms with the ritual knife. Lissa peeled potatoes and claimed she had been trained for dangerous field work, not vegetables. Her first potato looked like a white cube. The second looked like a smaller white cube. We added water, salt, and the last dried meat from her bag. The stew thickened slowly. It smelled of smoke, onion, and pepper from the sausage. We tore the dark bread into pieces and held them near the stove until the crust became crisp. Grum tasted 1 spoonful. His ears lifted. He ate 3 bowls. Lissa watched him wipe the pot with bread. A temporary summon would have vanished 4 hours ago. A temporary summon would not have repaired the roof. or embarrassed Rusk. That was important structural work. She laughed. It was the first quiet sound I had heard all day. After dinner, Grum moved one of the shelves away from the back wall. He had noticed a draft behind it. The stones carried a mark shaped like the crown on his hand. He touched it. The entire cellar shook. Dust fell from the repaired roof. Lissa stood and called her falcon. I took the ritual knife. Grum did not move his hand. A line of green light traveled across the wall. Stone folded inward, revealing stairs that descended beneath the academy. Warm air rose from the darkness. It smelled of iron, old smoke, and earth after rain. Then a voice older than the academy spoke through every stone around us. It said the first citizen of the buried crown had returned. It said the land above had been stolen, and it ordered Grum to take back the surface. On my second day in that world, a stone staircase bowed to a goblin and accused me of occupying his kingdom without a permit. It also informed us that the unpaid rent was 812 years late. We own 30 silver, I told the darkness. The old voice answered that gold was not accepted. Excellent, Lissa said. We are too poor to be punished. The stairs lit one after another. Green fire appeared in bronze bowls along the walls. Grum went first with his broom handle. I followed. Lissa came behind me, and her glass falcon circled above our heads. Pavin arrived just before we entered. The shaking wall had been felt at the registry office, and he carried an official memory crystal. I am here as a witness, he said. Did Marden send you? Marden ordered everyone to ignore the shaking. That is why I came quickly. Our group descended 83 steps. The air became warmer. The stone changed from rough academy blocks to smooth black arches carved with small crowned faces. Every face was a goblin. The academy had taught that goblins were wandering monsters with no written history. The wall beside us contained more history than the academy library. At the bottom, Grum found a bronze gate. It opened when his crown mark touched the lock. 6 goblins waited on the other side. They did not attack. They were too weak. One held a stone hammer. His shoulders were wide, but hunger had pulled his skin tight. He called himself Breck. Another guarded a cold cooking pot as if it contained treasure. She called herself Asa. 4 younger goblins stood behind them. Their combined weapons were one chipped knife and a table leg. Grum spoke to them in short, rough sounds. I did not understand the words, but the citizen bond carried the meaning. They had lived behind the gate for years. The old tunnels produced mushrooms and insects, but a collapse had blocked their water path. 2 members of their group had died during the last month. Breck saw the mark on Grum's hand. He dropped to one knee. Grum pulled him up. That small movement mattered. The cold voice told me a new consequence of the citizen bond. A free citizen could invite others of his people. They still had to agree. I still had to accept responsibility for them. Each new bond required 1 mana and enough shelter for 1 person. Our cellar could safely hold 3. There were 7 of us if I accepted everyone. The voice warned that hunger and exposure would weaken every profession. It did not create food because I had found starving people. My unique class was powerful, but it had the kindness of a tax collector. We have 1 room, I told them through the bond. We have 22 silver after last night. 2 silver already belongs to Lissa. If you join, you will work, eat simple food, and sleep close together until we build more space. Nobody will own you. Anybody may leave. Asa pointed at the empty pot. Food today? Yes. Food tomorrow? If our plan works. Good plan? Average plan. She considered this and nodded. Honest poverty was apparently more convincing than a beautiful lie. All 6 agreed. I spent 6 mana. 6 crown marks appeared. The old road shook, and green light traveled through carvings that had been dark for centuries. Our population rose from 1 to 7. The citizen bond recorded Breck as level 2 with strength 9 and no profession. Asa was level 1 with a cooking talent. The other 4 were level 1 laborers. None had combat skills. The voice called us a settlement. It sounded generous. We had 1 leaking cellar, 1 pot, and 7 hungry goblins. Pavin's memory crystal recorded every mark. The law defines a summon as temporary magical property, he said. Permanent monsters fall under dungeon control. Neither definition fits them. Then, right citizen. His face became pale. The capital has executed clerks for smaller words. Use very neat handwriting. Lissa laughed. Pavin did not. He still wrote it. We returned to the surface before the morning bell. Grum and 2 others cleared the cellar floor. Breck examined the stone around the hidden stairs. Asa lit the stove and placed her empty pot on it with great hope. I went to the supply market with Lissa. First, I repaid her 2 silver, then I bought 1 iron pick for 7 silver, 2 hatchets for 6, and food for 5. The food included flour, beans, onions, salt, cheap oil, and 3 smoked cave fish. 2 silver remained. An old quartermaster named Juno watched me load everything into a handcart. 7 mouths and 2 silver, he said. That is not a budget. That is a short goodbye. Do you have damaged goods? He looked interested. Juno sold me a cracked grinding stone and a bent iron grate for 1 silver. He added a bag of coal dust for free because it had become wet during winter. Then he pointed at a pile of broken training shields behind his stall. Clear that pile before noon, and the wood is yours. Grum and his new workers arrived with the handcart before I could answer. They separated leather, iron rims, and usable boards in 40 minutes. Grum showed the others how to test wood, remove nails, and bind the boards into flat bundles. His builder profession produced no miracle. It produced a method. 2 workers learned basic salvage after watching him. The cold voice explained that a professional citizen could teach 1 basic skill to compatible students. Training required real work, and advanced knowledge still required time. That was the next hidden result of my single ability. 1 builder had become 3 useful workers. Juno pulled his beard. I offered rubbish so you would leave faster. We can put it back. He stood in front of the cart. Touch my rubbish and lose a hand. He gave us the entire pile. By midday, Grum had repaired the cellar door and built 2 sleeping platforms. The platforms were wide, strong, and ugly enough to frighten thieves. Asa ground flour, soaked beans, and cleaned the fish. Breck took the pick down the ancient stairs. He returned after 9 minutes carrying a black stone veined with red metal. Juno struck it with a small hammer. Iron, he said. Rich iron. Where did this come from? Our basement. He stared at the cellar. Your basement is better than my house. Breck led us to the collapsed water passage. Grum studied the support beams. The 4 laborers moved loose stone. Lissa's falcon searched narrow gaps and projected a pale image into the air. We needed water before we needed ore. Grum placed braces made from shield boards. Breck showed the workers where the stone would split. They removed 1 block at a time. After 2 hours, cold water rushed through the channel. It filled a forgotten basin and turned an ancient wooden wheel. The wheel still worked. The motion opened vents along the road. Fresh air moved through the tunnels. Green lamps woke one after another, revealing 3 passages and a faded map carved into the floor. Pavin stopped breathing for several seconds. Those roads pass under the entire academy, he said. 1 reached the merchant gate. 1 reached the public dungeon entrance. The last ended beneath the examination arena. Grum looked at me. I looked at the route beneath the arena. We both remembered Rusk standing blue beside the dye pool. Later, I said. Grum nodded with visible disappointment. Breck mined for the rest of the afternoon. The real tool and rich vein allowed him to qualify as an apprentice miner. He learned where to strike, how to listen for cracks, and how to leave safe pillars. Then he taught 2 laborers the basic skill of sorting ore. By the 4th hour, they had extracted 180 pounds of iron stone. Grum's team had cut 60 usable building blocks from the collapse. Lissa and I copied 3 safe routes from the ancient floor. Grum gained enough profession experience to reach level 4. Breck reached level 3. Asa became an apprentice cook after preparing 7 meals with limited supplies and no waste. My class absorbed settlement growth rather than combat kills. I rose to class level 3. My mana increased from 16 to 22. My strength rose from 7 to 8. We took 1 cart of ore and 1 route map to the academy field office. The public contract yard was crowded with students, merchants, and dungeon teams. Pavin registered our goods under the name West Cellar Settlement. Marden had not approved the name. That improved it. The ore buyer paid 40 silver. The mapping office offered 30 for the safe route to the merchant gate. With the 2 silver we had left, our treasury reached 72 silver. The ranking board awarded 160 resource points and moved me from position 41 to position 17. People stopped laughing when Grum passed. Some moved out of his way. That was the beginning of status. Rusk arrived before Pavin could seal the contract. His coat was no longer blue, but a faint line remained behind one ear. He carried a map identical to ours. The route belongs to my team, he said. My wolf found it this morning. The field officer compared the pages. Rusk's copy had the same turns and measurements. He had not invented a claim. He had stolen an early draft from Lissa's desk. Lissa's face became cold. Rusk had a reason. His family sponsor paid only while he held first place, and yesterday's defeat had damaged his score. He needed a public victory before the weekly review. That did not make the theft less stupid. 2 teams claim 1 route, the officer said. Academy rule requires a guided verification. The successful guide receives the contract and points. Rusk raised his map. I accept. I studied his page. It was our first draft. Grum had corrected 1 passage after the water wheel opened. The old line ended at a drainage gate below the animal pens. I accept, I said. The officer sent 2 surveyors with each team. 4 memory crystals displayed the journey above the public yard. More students gathered around the images. Marden appeared on the administration balcony. Rusk entered through the public dungeon gate. I used the ancient road from our cellar. Both teams moved toward the merchant wall. At the first split, Rusk turned left according to his stolen page. We turned right. His tunnel became narrow. The ash wolf began to growl. Rusk told the surveyors the route was safe and pulled the drainage lever. The gate above him opened. An entire morning of dirty water from the animal pens came down the tunnel. Rusk ran. The wave ran faster. The public crystals showed him arrive at the dungeon entrance on his back, covered in brown mud, straw, and 1 cabbage leaf. His ash wolf came out first and immediately stood with the other survey team. The contract yard shook with laughter. Marden turned away from the balcony. He could not defend Rusk without admitting how the map had been obtained. Our path reached the merchant wall in 23 minutes. Grum repaired 1 loose brace during the journey. The 2 surveyors marked every turn. When we emerged, the officer announced the result to the entire yard. West Cellar Settlement holds the verified route. Payment increased to 50 silver because of the second entrance. False claimant penalized 100 ranking points. Our treasury rose to 92 silver after the adjusted payment. My rank moved from 17 to 11. Rusk fell from 1st to 6th. The surveyors also awarded Grum 40 profession experience for improving a registered road. He reached level 5. His strength rose to 11, and his builder skill advanced. Rusk stood beneath the board while dirty water dripped from his sleeves. You marked the wrong path on purpose, he said. It was an unfinished draft, Lissa replied. You stole it before we could protect you from reading it. Even the field officer laughed at that. Rusk left through a ring of students. Nobody moved out of his way. That was also status, moving in the other direction. We spent 38 silver before sunset. We bought lumber, nails, lamp oil, 3 blankets, a second pick, 2 shovels, a sack of barley, and enough food for 4 days. 54 silver remained in our locked box. Grum and his workers extended the cellar into the first underground hall. They raised a safe wall, fitted a proper door, and built a long table from the training shields. Breck stacked ore beside the water wheel. The room smelled of cut wood, stone dust, and hot food. Asa fried the cave fish in oil until the skin became crisp. She cooked onions in the same pan, then poured their sweet brown juice over the fish. The beans had softened all day beside the stove. She crushed some into the broth until it became thick. Grum baked rough flatbread directly on the iron grate. 7 goblins, 2 humans, and 1 glass falcon sat around the new table. The falcon did not eat, but Asa gave it an empty plate so it would not feel excluded. Lissa tore her bread and watched Grum teach a worker how to repair a stool. Yesterday he had no weapon, she said. Today he owns a road. Grum understood enough human speech to answer. Tomorrow, roof. He pointed upward, toward the academy. Not that roof, I said. He looked disappointed again. After dinner, Pavin arrived with the public assignment book pressed against his chest. His face told me the news before he spoke. Marden had used an emergency academy rule. Any settlement using an unlicensed dungeon road had to prove it could defend that road. At dawn, our 7 citizens would be sent into the Red Moss sector. The sector contained 23 cavehounds and 1 level 16 alpha. The recorded fatality rate was 80%. If we refused, every citizen would be classified as a hostile monster and destroyed. As Pavin finished reading, the ancient gate behind Grum opened by itself. Beyond it stood a ruined forge, a broken fortress wall, and dozens of fresh claw marks. Something on the other side struck the metal door. Once, twice, then 23 hungry voices began to howl. On the 3rd morning, the academy sent 7 poorly armed goblins to fight 23 cavehounds and called it a safety inspection. The monsters were more honest than the paperwork. Marden waited at the public dungeon gate with 60 students behind him. He wore his formal black coat, and held the assignment order high enough for every memory crystal to record it. West Cellar Settlement will secure the Red Maw Road before sunset, he announced. Failure will prove that permanent goblins are an uncontrolled hazard. Rusk stood near the front. His rank had fallen to 6th, and his family sponsor had sent 2 observers. He avoided Lissa's eyes. Pavin placed 3 official crystals on the gate pillars. Their images appeared over the academy courtyard. Merchants and off-duty teams stopped to watch. Marden wanted our death to be public. That was useful. Our victory would use the same audience. We had 54 silver. I spent 48 before entering the sector. Juno sold us damaged leather, old coal, 4 spear shafts, oil, iron wire, bandages, and pitch for less than half price. He watched the 7 goblins load the cart. Bring back the cart. That was his way of asking us to survive. 6 silver remained in our treasury. Lissa registered as an independent observer. Marden tried to refuse her, but Pavin read the rule aloud in front of the crowd. Her glass falcon flew through the gate beside us. The metal doors closed behind our cart. Then I heard 3 locks turn. Marden had sealed the exit. Lissa looked at the doors. That is illegal. Only if we return. The first official crystal above us went dark. Pavin's voice came faintly through the second. The courtyard can still see you. Keep moving. Marden shut down that crystal too. The glass falcon opened its wings. A clear beam linked it to the last crystal hidden beneath our supplies. Lissa smiled without warmth. He forgot I owned the transmission spell. The image returned to the courtyard. Our first public victory of the day was simply refusing to disappear. The Red Maw Road began beyond the ruined forge we had seen the night before. A thick gate separated the forge from the hounds. Its lower hinges bent each time the alpha struck from the other side. We had perhaps 3 hours. Grum studied the chamber. The forge mouth was cracked. The bellows had rotted. A water channel ran beneath the floor, but its wheel had no paddles. One wall had fallen outward. Rusted weapon blanks filled a stone box near the anvil. Breck lifted one blank and struck it. Iron good, he said. There were 18 usable pieces. We did not need to smelt our raw ore. We needed to heat, shape, and sharpen metal that ancient smiths had already prepared. That reduced a week of work to several hours. It did not reduce the amount of work. Grum divided the settlement into teams. 2 workers repaired the water wheel with salvaged shield boards. 2 cleared stones and raised a narrow fighting wall. Breck fitted the leather bellows while Asa mixed wet clay to close the forge cracks. I repaired the hound gate with iron wire. Lissa sent her falcon through a gap to count enemies. 23 ordinary cave hounds waited in the road. Their levels ranged from 4 to 7. The alpha was level 16 with 180 health. It had a red jaw wide enough to close around my chest. The creature hit the gate again. One hinge split. 2 hours. Grum said. His human speech was improving at a disturbing speed. The water wheel turned after 40 minutes. It drove the patched bellows. Coal burned white inside the repaired forge. Lissa's falcon focused light through its glass wings and added heat. Breck's mining profession taught him metal, not blades. His first spearhead became a thick iron triangle. It was ugly. It was also sharp. The cold voice offered Breck the smith profession, but accepting it would stop his progress as a miner. If he switched, our mine lost its only professional. I explained the choice. Breck shook his head. Miner. Grum used builder knowledge to copy the first spearhead. The workers heated and hammered under Breck's direction. They could produce simple objects, but none became a true smith. In 2 hours, we made 9 spearheads, repaired 3 hatchets, and bound 4 wooden shields. We had 18 citizens' hands' worth of work from only 7 people because every trained worker taught the next task. The gate hinge tore free. The first cave hound pushed its head through. Grum hit it with a hammer. The battle began before the last spear was sharp. 8 hounds entered in the first rush. They found a narrow lane between the new wall and the forge. 2 ropes released hanging boards behind them. The pack became trapped in 2 groups. Grum and 3 workers held the front with spears. Breck struck over their shields with his stone hammer. Lissa's falcon fired narrow beams into the hound's eyes. I guarded the gap beside the forge. The first hound leaped at Asa. She threw a clay bowl into its face. The bowl broke. Hot bean paste covered the animal's nose. It stopped attacking long enough to reconsider every decision that had led to lunch being used as a weapon. I drove my spear through its shoulder. Grum finished it from the side. The hidden crystal carried the fight to the public yard. We could hear distant cheers through its voice channel. 1 down, Pavin reported. The students counted with him. The second hound climbed the wall. Breck sent it back. 2 workers pinned it while Lissa blinded another. Grum kept the weakest citizens behind shields. We killed all 8 in 6 minutes. Grum gained 112 experience and reached level 6. Breck reached level 4. The 4 workers each reached level 2. Our citizens grew during the battle. Normal summons could not. The measuring figures appeared beside the public image because Pavin had linked the registry. The courtyard became loud enough for us to hear it through stone. Marden's voice cut across the channel. "The feed is displaying false information," Pavin answered. "The figures come from your official pillars." The crowd laughed. Marden shut off the sound. He could silence the audience. He could not make them forget the numbers. The remaining hounds did not charge. The alpha pulled them back into the road. It was smarter than Rusk's wolf and much less friendly. We used the pause. Grum extended the fighting wall. Asa cleaned wounds. I had lost 7 health to a claw on my side. 1 worker had a bitten hand. Lissa had spent half her mana. Then her falcon found 5 iron cages beyond the road. 5 goblins were locked inside. Each wore a broken academy tracking collar. Previous teams had used them as bait, then abandoned them when the Red Maw Pack took the sector. The collars carried Marden's department seal. Grum's hands tightened around his spear. I felt his anger through the citizen bond. I also felt the moment he controlled it. "Free first," he said. "Angry later." That was a better order than most kings would have given. We could not reach the cages while 15 hounds and the alpha controlled the road. So we changed the road. The ancient water channel continued beneath it. Breck studied the stone and marked 3 weak supports. Grum understood at once. We removed blocks from our side, ran 2 ropes through the channel, and filled the gap with loose rubble. The plan required someone to bring the alpha onto the weakened floor. I had the highest health after Grum. Lissa caught my sleeve. "Your current health is 29. The alpha has 180. "I know. I am explaining why this is a bad plan." "Do you have a better one?" She looked at the cages in her falcon's image. "No." She placed a thin shield of light around my chest. "Now your bad plan is slightly less bad." The gate could not open again, so we broke the last hinge and let it fall outward. The alpha entered first. It looked like a wolf built by someone who had only heard wolves described by frightened farmers. Its shoulders scraped both walls. Red liquid burned between its teeth. I threw the last piece of smoked fish at its nose. Asa made a hurt sound behind me. The alpha smelled the fish, looked at me, and decided I contained more meat. It charged. I ran down the center of the road. Students watching in the courtyard began shouting my name. I learned that later. At the time, I heard claws in my own breath. I crossed the marked stone. The alpha landed behind me. The floor cracked but held. It struck my light shield. Lissa lost the rest of her mana. I flew into the wall and lost 12 health. The alpha turned for a second attack. Grum shouted. 6 citizens pulled both ropes. The weakened supports came free. The road collapsed beneath the alpha and 5 hounds. They fell into the water channel. The fall did not kill the alpha, but it trapped its rear legs beneath stone. Our spear line advanced. The other 10 attacked from both sides. Lissa fought with a broken spear. Asa dragged an injured worker behind the forge. Breck held the right gap until Grum reached him. The alpha tore one leg free and bit Breck below the knee. His health fell from 41 to 9. Grum struck the alpha's eye. I drove my spear into the joint beneath its jaw. 3 workers pushed the shaft together. The alpha stopped moving. For one breath, every hound froze. Then the citizens hit their shields with spear shafts. The surviving hounds fled down the old road. The score crystal counted 23 defeated cave hounds, including the alpha. 11 were dead. 12 had escaped the registered sector. The road was secure. The courtyard sound returned when Pavin forced the channel open. Hundreds of voices shouted. Grum reached level 7. His health rose to 68, and his strength reached 15. Breck reached level 5, but his leg remained badly damaged. 2 workers reached level 3. Asa reached level 3 through support experience. My class advanced to level 4. My mana rose from 22 to 28. My strength reached 10. I had gained power, but I still needed Lissa to help me stand. We opened the 5 cages. The prisoners had seen Grum protect the wounded. They had seen us fight for them when leaving would have been easier. When he invited them to join, all 5 agreed. I spent 5 mana. Our population rose from 7 to 12. The hidden class reached its 2nd stage, Lord of Growth. It did not give me a weapon. It allowed a professional citizen to supervise 3 compatible apprentices at once, as long as the settlement owned a proper workplace. The ruined forge became registered infrastructure. One ability had produced another consequence. We could now train faster, but losing Breck would still close our mine. Knowledge lived in people. Not in my class. We carried him toward the cages to rest. Behind them, Lissa's falcon found a locked stone room. Inside were academy supply crates, 6 clear blue summoning cores, and a black ledger. Pavin asked us to hold every page before the crystal. The ledger recorded private sales from the examination reserve. Core 42 had been transferred to Rusk's sponsor 3 days before my test. The payment had gone into Marden's departmental account. Other pages showed that failed students had been sent into dangerous sectors whenever auditors asked about missing supplies. Marden had not become corrupt for simple luxury. The capital had cut his department budget each year. He had sold cores to wealthy families, used part of the money to keep instructors employed, and sacrificed poor candidates to hide the numbers. He had convinced himself that the academy mattered more than the students inside it. Pavin read the final entry aloud through the crystal. The public yard became silent. Rusk's voice entered the channel. I did not know where the core came from. I believed him. His pride was large, but it was not clever enough to hide guilt. Marden ordered the gate guards to destroy the crystals. Nobody obeyed. When we returned through the dungeon entrance, more than 400 people waited. Students stood on the walls. Merchants filled the path. 3 senior instructors had joined Pavin beside the official pillar. Marden stood alone before them. You endangered the entire academy, he told me. Permanent monsters, illegal roads, public disorder. Everything I did protected this institution. Grum came through the gate carrying Breck on a shield. The crowd saw the blood on the bandages. Lissa placed the black ledger in Pavin's hands. You protected a building, I said. We protected the people you put under it. Pavin announced the result. The academy paid 8 gold and 76 silver for the cores, hides, road bounty, and stolen property. With our last 6 silver, the treasury reached 8 gold and 82 silver. My ranking moved from 11 to 4. West Cellar Settlement received provisional defender status. No academy officer could destroy its citizens without a public hearing. Then Pavin read Marden's own ledger before the crowd. Every sale, every missing core, every dead student. The red stamp Marden had used on my name was pressed onto his instructor record. The senior guards removed his black coat and took him away. As he passed Grum, the ruined gate behind us fell flat with a loud crash. Marden jumped. The crowd laughed. Grum looked at the gate, then at me. Not planned. Do not admit that. By evening, the ruined forge had become our first real hall. Grum repaired the outer wall and built a heavy door. The new citizens cleaned the cages and turned them into storage racks. Asa made a bed for Breck close to the heat. The academy healer had closed the wound, but the bite had damaged his leg. He could not mine for at least 3 days. Our ore production stopped immediately. No voice offered a replacement. That was the cost of citizens. A tool could be replaced. A person could not. Asa refused to cook the cave hounds because she said angry meat made angry soup. Instead, she used barley, smoked meat, onions, and dark mushrooms. She roasted the mushrooms until their edges became brown, then added them to a thick stew. Flatbread swelled against the hot forge stones. She brushed each piece with oil and crushed herbs. The bread cracked when I tore it. Steam carried the smell of grain and garlic. The stew was rich, smoky, and warm enough to make the stone hall feel like a home. Breck ate from his bed. Every citizen touched his cup before sitting down. It was their way of thanking him. Lissa sat beside me on the floor. Her shoulder pressed against mine because the table was crowded. You are rank 4, she said. Grum owns a forge. You received 8 gold. Breck cannot walk. She looked across the hall. You count the price before the reward. Someone should. She placed half her flatbread on my plate. Then count that too. After the meal, the forge fire turned green. The old stones shifted behind Breck's bed. A doorway appeared where there had been a solid wall. Cold air entered the hall. Beyond the doorway stood a throne room covered in white dust. Goblin statues lined both sides. At the far end, a young woman slept inside a clear crystal. She had green skin, a broken gold crown, and a spear held against her chest. Grum crossed the room as if pulled by a chain. The crystal opened. The woman stepped out and placed the point of her spear against my throat. I am Xena, last princess of the buried crown, she said. Her eyes moved to the marks on Grum and the 11 other citizens. Release my people, human. The ancient statues raised their weapons, or your kingdom ends tonight. On the 4th day, a princess held a spear to my throat and demanded that I free the citizens serving breakfast behind her. The oldest stone statue leaned forward as if it did not want to miss my answer. They can leave, I said. Xena's spear pressed harder. A warm drop moved down my neck. Release them. I cannot choose for them. The statues stepped from their platforms. There were 12. Each carried a stone blade. Lissa raised her glass falcon, but she had not recovered all her mana. Grum stood between Xena and the wounded Breck. You marked them, Xena said. You call yourself king. The system calls my class that. It has questionable taste. Her eyes narrowed. I explained the citizen bond. One rule broken, one permanent choice, no forced command, no return after death. Food and tools still required. Xena did not believe me. She had slept through 8 centuries and awakened to find a human among marked goblins. Her suspicion was reasonable. Ask them, I said. She began with Grum. Do you wish to be free? Already free. Did he summon you? Yes. Then why do you stand beside him? Grum pointed at his repaired roof, the warm forge, and Breck's clean bandages. He asked. Others ordered. Xena questioned every citizen. Asa said she stayed because the kitchen was hers. Breck said a slave could refuse work. The rescued prisoners said we had opened their cages before asking for loyalty. One of those prisoners remained afraid. When Xena asked him, he looked toward the open road. Leave, he whispered. I released his bond. The crown mark disappeared from his hand. I gave him 1 blanket, 3 days of food, and 4 silver from the treasury. He walked through the throne room door. No spell stopped him. No pain struck him. Grum wished him a safe road. Our population fell from 12 to 11. The class took away the growth produced by his unfinished training. My mana dropped by 1 point. Freedom had a measurable price, and the ability made me pay it. Xena lowered her spear. The stone statues lowered their weapons. More important, the frightened goblin stopped at the outer doorway. He looked back at the warm hall. Can return? If you choose, I said. He left to see the road alone. Xena watched until his footsteps faded. The old kings could not do that. Could not release a servant? Could not survive being refused. She planted her spear against the floor. The throne room woke. Green fire flowed through lines on the walls, revealing carved battles and cities. 812 years earlier, the buried crown had ruled the valley. Goblin masons had cut the first dungeon roads. Goblin mages had bound the water channels. Humans arrived as allies during a winter war. They received permission to build a school on the surface. Then the Goblin King died. The human council sealed the royal family below, changed the maps, and called the old citizens monsters. Each generation repeated the new story until the theft became law. Xena had entered the crystal with 18 survivors. The damaged chamber woke only when a free goblin touched the royal gate. Grum opened it, she said. Not you. That sounds correct. She studied my face, perhaps searching for wounded pride. She found hunger instead. Asa's breakfast smelled too good. Xena opened 3 sealed doors. 17 goblins emerged. 1 crystal had failed long ago. There were masons, scouts, 1 old knight, and 3 children. Each remembered a piece of the old city. I offered the same terms I had given Grum. Xena corrected 1 sentence. Do not promise food tomorrow unless you have counted it. We have enough grain for 3 days. Then say 3 days. She was going to be useful. All 18, including Xena, joined voluntarily. I spent 18 mana. Our population rose from 11 to 29. The new bonds recorded Xena as a level 12 rune mage. The old knight was level 9. 2 masons were level 6. The others ranged from level 2 to level 5. The settlement's total strength increased more in 1 minute than it had during the previous 2 days. It was not free strength. 18 people needed beds, water, clothes, and nearly 30 pounds of food each day. Our treasury held 8 gold and 78 silver after the departing citizens' payment. 1 gold equaled 100 silver. We were rich compared with the first morning and poor compared with our new needs. I made a list. Lissa read over my shoulder. 400 boards? Grum wants a fortress. Grum nodded. 30 sacks of lime? 200 pounds of grain? 60 blankets? 80 iron spikes? Medicine? Rope? Oil? And 6 barrels of clean water? Everyone nodded. Lissa looked at our money box. The box appears nervous. We spent 5 gold and 70 silver through Juno's yard. He called 3 merchants and 6 carts. The goods filled the west path. The treasury fell to 3 gold and 8 silver. Juno watched them unload. Stop growing until you pay for the carts. Pavin brought better news. The Academy had used our restored merchant road all morning. Field law awarded the builder a toll of 2 silver per loaded cart and 1 silver per person. In 6 hours, 114 people and 37 carts used the road. The toll reached 1 gold and 88 silver. The Academy also owed 12 gold for securing the Red Maw sector and opening a permanent second route. Marden had delayed the payment, but his arrest removed the hold. Our treasury rose to 16 gold and 96 silver. The numbers attracted witnesses faster than magic. By noon, students crowded the cellar. Merchants posted route prices publicly. West Cellar Settlement rose from a joke to the largest new contractor of the month. Grum did not visit the board. He built. The ruined wall beyond the forge followed the shape of an old fortress. The foundations remained strong. Grum placed the 2 masons in charge of stone. Each supervised 3 apprentices under the Lord of Growth stage. Other teams fitted boards, cleared rooms, and repaired water channels. Xena drew runes on 6 iron spikes. 3 goblins with magical talent copied her first lines. Their marks produced only sparks, but they had begun training as rune apprentices. The old knight taught 6 citizens to hold shields as a single wall. Breck directed ore sorting from his bed and became angry whenever anyone called it rest. Power came from people teaching people. By the 6th hour, the fortress had 1 repaired gate, 2 watch platforms, a working forge, a kitchen, a storehouse, and enough sleeping space for 32 residents. Grum reached level 8 through construction. The masons each gained a level. Xena's rune profession advanced after she restored the gate seal. My class reached level 5. My mana increased to 34. My strength reached 12. I was stronger than the apprentice who had entered the arena, but the old knight could still put me on the floor in 3 moves. He demonstrated twice. Lissa watched the second fall. Improvement. I lasted 1 move longer. I meant the sound. The first fall was louder. Before the 3rd lesson, 24 armed guards entered the cellar. They wore white coats marked with a black tower. A young woman walked between them with 3 notaries and a public recording crystal. Celine was the heir of House Thalos. Her family owned the Academy Hill, the merchant town, and every registered mine beneath the valley. She wore practical boots, carried no visible weapon, and looked at the new fortress without pretending it was a pile of monster stones. "Oron," she said, "by surface law, all underground structures belong to the holder of the land deed. I am ordering work to stop until ownership is reviewed." More than 100 students had followed the guards. Pavin stood among the notaries. Lissa's falcon rose above the gate. The confrontation had an audience before either side raised a voice. Xena came from the throne room wearing her broken crown. Celine's calm expression failed for 1 second. "That crown is displayed in the Capitol Museum," she said. "The one in your museum is wood covered in gold paint," Xena replied. Several students laughed. Celine did not punish them. She opened a sealed deed. "My family received this valley from the first Academy Council 790 years ago. 800 tenant families now live on the surface. I will not let an ancient claim make them homeless." If she admitted the theft, farms, homes, and shops would fall into legal chaos. Xena touched the deed. A green line appeared beneath the ink. The original text became visible. It did not grant ownership. It allowed the human school to use 1 hill for 100 years. A later hand had removed the limit and added every mine in the valley. The notaries moved closer. Pavin recorded both layers. Celine's face became still. "One altered deed does not prove a living claim." "The dungeon can prove it," Xena said. 3 royal markers lay beneath the Academy. If restored before sunset, they would awaken the land memory. The dungeon itself would identify the lawful holder before every active crystal. Celine sent a message mirror to her father in the capital. Lord Thalos appeared above it in a formal white coat. He was not surprised by Xena. That told me he knew more than his daughter. "Seize the throne room and every record," he ordered. "The creatures are using illusion magic." Celine looked at her guards. "We have 3 royal notaries and 4 Academy crystals present. I will permit the test." Her father stared at her through the mirror. "That was not my order. It is my responsibility on this land." The students heard every word. Lord Thalos ended the connection. Our deadline was sunset. The first marker stood beside the water wheel. Xena restored its rune while Grum repaired the cracked base. It lit after 20 minutes. The second stood at the merchant wall. Celine, her guards, the notaries, and a river of students followed us through the road. Breck's apprentices replaced 2 missing stones. Lissa focused light into the central seal. The marker woke and projected an image of goblin builders opening the same road centuries earlier. Merchants on both sides watched in silence. The third marker lay beneath the examination arena. Grum finally received permission to use that tunnel. His smile worried me. We entered a round chamber below the blue dye pool. A stone guardian stood in the center. It was 12 feet tall, level 22, and shaped like an armored goblin. A sentence around its feet said it would recognize only a nation able to protect its people and maintain its roads. Xena placed her hand on the marker. The guardian woke and attacked everyone. Ancient law was direct, she said. Students and guards crowded onto the upper gallery. Official crystals projected the chamber into the arena. Rusk stood in front with his wolf. Celine and the notaries remained beside the marker. We had 6 minutes before sunset. The guardian swung a stone sword at Xena. Grum's shield line caught the flat of the blade. 6 citizens slid backward but remained standing. Lissa's falcon struck the guardian's eyes. The light did no damage, but the giant turned. Grum pointed at 4 support chains around the chamber. I understood. The blue dye pool rested above us. 2 builders climbed the side braces. Xena and her apprentices placed slowing runes on the floor. The guardian crossed the first rune and lost half its speed. The old knight led the shield line around its legs. I ran to the marker with Celine. Its base contained 4 empty spaces. The restored stones from the other markers had produced matching seals. Pavin carried one. Lissa's falcon carried the second. Xena threw the third across the room. The guardian raised its sword over Grum. Celine removed the black tower seal from her own deed and pressed it into the 4th space. The marker rejected it. Green fire climbed her arm and burned the false ownership mark from the paper. The public crystals showed it happen. Her family's legal claim vanished before hundreds of witnesses. Celine did not pull away. Use the crown mark. Grum was beneath the guardian's sword. I reached through the citizen bond and asked, not ordered. He threw his broken broom handle across the chamber. I caught it. The small crown mark on the wood fitted the last space. The marker lit. At the same moment, the builders cut both upper chains. The blue dye pool dropped through the ceiling. Several hundred gallons struck the guardian. It fell backward into the slowing runes and became completely blue. Rusk's ashwolf looked down from the gallery, made one unhappy sound, and hid behind its master. The arena exploded with laughter. Grum climbed onto the guardian's chest and pressed his hand to its crown. The giant stopped moving. The third marker awakened with 11 seconds remaining. Light passed through every ancient road. Images above the academy and town showed the Goblin City, the human agreement, the sealed royal family, and the altered deed. The dungeon named Xena and the free citizens as heirs of the buried crown. It named Grum the first builder of the restored city. It named me keeper of the citizen bond, not owner of the people. Every crystal recorded the judgment. Celine faced the notaries and withdrew her seizure order. The guards lowered their weapons. The students began chanting Grum's name. Rusk did not join them, but he did not leave either. Our settlement received recognized claimant status until a capital hearing. The academy raised my rank from 4th to 2nd because the marker trial counted as a level 22 public defense. Grum reached level 9. His strength rose to 19. Xena gained 1 profession level. My class gained another point of mana through the legal recognition. Power and status had moved again. Our toll money reached 18 gold and 14 silver by evening. We returned to the fortress with Celine and the 3 notaries. She stayed because the hearing would happen at dawn, not because she trusted us. Asa and Xena prepared an old royal meal. They filled small circles of dough with chopped mushrooms, roasted boar, onions, and herbs. The dumplings cooked in clear broth until their edges became soft. Asa poured hot butter over them and added crisp pieces of onion. The first bite released pepper, meat, and rich broth. Even the old knight closed his eyes while chewing. Celine ate 1 dumpling, then a second. On the 4th, she asked for the recipe. Xena refused because the surface still owed 8 centuries of rent. We established that gold is not accepted, I reminded her. Recipes are. Lissa sat beside me near the forge. Her hair smelled faintly of smoke. She turned my hand over and examined the burns from the marker. You should stop catching dangerous objects, she said. The broom was safe. The kingdom attached to it is the dangerous part. She wrapped my palm with clean cloth. Her fingers remained around mine for 1 quiet breath. Then the fortress warning bell rang. We went to the gate. 200 royal soldiers filled the ancient merchant road. Behind them stood armored summons, supply carts, and a level 30 bronze giant. Lord Thalos rode at the center in his white coat. He carried a capital decree declaring every goblin in the dungeon a hostile monster. The hearing at dawn would decide ownership. His army had arrived to make sure none of us lived long enough to attend. On the 5th morning, Lord Thalos brought 200 soldiers to a legal hearing and placed a level 30 bronze giant beside the witness stand. The giant carried an axe, so I assumed it had already chosen a side. The hearing took place in the academy arena. Thalos wanted open ground. We wanted public crystals. 600 students, merchants, and farmers watched before sunrise. 5 capital notaries sat at the center table. 3 had witnessed the landmarkers. 2 had arrived with Thalos. Every statement would reach the town and capital. Thalos could not kill us quietly. Selene had invoked the old rule of open claim. Her father chose the hearing, but his soldiers still surrounded every exit. Grum had worked through the night. The fortress now held 54 beds, 3 water tanks, and a second wall. Builders and rune apprentices shook from exhaustion. Real construction had a cost. No system voice removed it. Just before we entered the arena, the citizen who had left returned through the merchant road. 21 goblins followed him. They had escaped a hidden work camp beneath the Thalos estate. Their tracking collars named them mining equipment. The oldest had worked there for 30 years. The youngest was 6. The returning citizen said, "Saw Road. Choose return." Grum gave his blanket back and opened the gate. The newcomers brought 3 carts, 12 picks, 2 tents, and their broken chains. Grum turned the throne room and storehouse into sleeping halls. I explained the citizen bond before the academy crystals. Thalos's soldiers, Selene's notaries, and hundreds of students watched every goblin choose. All 22 agreed. I spent 22 mana. Our population rose from 29 to 51. The hidden class reached its 3rd stage, Builder of Civilizations. The change registered our forge, kitchen, mine, roads, walls, and school as one settlement. Workplaces could preserve basic lessons, but advanced knowledge still lived in specialists. The new miners could learn sorting from Breck's marked workbench. None could replace his judgment underground. My class reached level 6. My maximum mana rose from 35 to 42, though the new bonds left only 20 available. My strength increased from 12 to 14. Grum reached level 10 after expanding the fortress. His strength reached 22. He was still small enough to stand beneath the bronze giant's knee. The public pillars displayed every number. Students who had laughed at a level 1 goblin 5 days earlier now shouted when Grum entered the arena. Rusk stood beside the recording platform at rank 9th. His wolf wore a plain collar. He did not laugh. Thalos opened the hearing. "The creatures below the academy are not citizens," he said. "They are monsters created or controlled by an illegal class. The land memory is a dungeon illusion. If this claim stands, 800 surface families lose their homes and every summoning contract in the kingdom becomes uncertain. The danger was real, treating summons as people would shake armies, farms, transport, and dungeons. Many witnesses feared us without hating us. I did not promise that nothing would change. No surface family will be removed, I said. The old agreement allowed people to live and study here. We will honor it. We claim the roads, the sealed city, and the right of each free resident to exist. Xena placed the restored agreement on the table. Selene placed her family deed beside it. The green undertext showed the alteration to every crystal. One capital notary asked Lord Thalos when he had learned about the hidden text. He remained silent for 6 breaths. "When I inherited the estate," he said. Selene closed her eyes. Thalos had known for 18 years. "Why hide it?" she asked. For the first time, he looked at her instead of the audience. "Because the Royal Summoner Council would seize the valley the moment our title failed. They would close the academy, clear the farms, and turn the dungeon into a military reserve. I protected every family above that road." His motive was not a bag of gold. It was control. He believed only his lie stood between the valley and a greater machine. "You also kept goblins in a mine camp," Selene said. "Registered dungeon labor." The 21 freed workers raised their broken collars. Every public crystal showed them. The arena became silent. Pavin read the registry. Each citizen had a stable body, level, profession, and right to leave. The returning citizen ended his mark, crossed the legal boundary, and asked to return. I accepted him again. The witnesses saw choice occur in both directions. Lissa's falcon showed Grum receiving his name, the first rat fight, the roads, the red maw cages, and a citizen leaving safely. The evidence had grown in public. The 3 neutral notaries voted to recognize the citizens. The 2 who arrived with Thalos refused. The hearing stood 3 votes against 2. Then, a red message burned across their table. The Royal Summoner Council had cancelled the neutral votes. Its order declared the citizen bond a forbidden domination class. It commanded Thalos to seize me, Xena, Grum, and every settlement record. The distant institution had finally shown its hand. Thalos looked tired. Then he raised his hand. The bronze giant entered the arena. "I will prevent a civil war," he said. "Arrest the leaders, contain the monsters, use force only if resisted." 200 soldiers lowered their spears. Selene stepped onto the center line. The hearing recognized them. The council overruled it. "Then the council can come here and explain itself." Thalos ordered his guard captain to remove her. Half of the white-coated estate guards refused to move. The army split in front of 600 witnesses. Our first victory came without a blow. 112 soldiers lowered their weapons. 88 continued forward with 40 armored summons and the bronze giant. The academy alarm rang. Pavin kept every public crystal active. "If you destroy the record," he announced to the stands, "the capital will hear only the council's version." Students formed a ring around the pillars. Rusk joined them. "I am protecting academy property. My sponsor understands that sentence." It was not heroism. It was a beginning. The bronze giant raised its axe. "We did not fight in the arena. Our strength was a fortress, not a flat field. I ordered nobody through the bond. Grum called the retreat, and every citizen followed the plan we had prepared during the night. We withdrew through the west cellar while Lissa transmitted everything. Thalos followed. Students and merchants filled the ancient galleries. The fortress had 20 defenders. The enemy had 4 times that number, and 1 giant our spears could not damage. We had spent 12 gold on wood, chain, oil, medicine, crossbows, and shields. 6 gold and 14 silver remained. That money had become walls. Iron hounds entered the merchant road. Xena's apprentices softened the pitch beneath the stones. The hounds sank to their knees. 2 false walls trapped 12 hounds. The public gallery cheered as the crystals counted them. Royal soldiers tried the water road. Miners flooded it while shield citizens closed floating barriers. Grum offered 30 trapped soldiers a dry exit if they surrendered. All 30 accepted. Thalos heard the crowd count each one. He sent the bronze giant through the central gate. It tore the first door from its hinges with one hand. 14 bolts struck. 3 entered joints. The giant lost only 20 of 600 health. It swung its axe and removed half the outer wall. Stone filled the hall. 1 builder lost an arm. 2 defenders fell unconscious. Asa's team pulled them away. The cheering above stopped. This was not an arena trick. If we failed, people would die. The old knight held the inner gap. Xena burned runes into the giant's ankle. Lissa focused light on the same joint. The metal became red but did not break. The giant hit the inner gate. Its health remained above 500. Breck lay beside the mine lever with his leg bound in wood. His apprentices had replaced 6 supports beneath the hall with temporary beams linked to 1 chain. If the chain moved, the floor would collapse into the old mine. The giant was heavy enough but stood 3 steps from the marked stone. Grum took the broken broom handle from his belt. He walked through the inner gate alone. Thalos stood behind the giant. "Surrender the class holder, and no more creatures will be harmed." Grum pointed the broom handle at the giant. "Level 1, he said. Then he hit its bronze foot. The giant looked down. Grum ran. It followed. 1 step, 2, 3. The red joint reached the marked stone. Lissa released her light. Xena triggered the runes. The old knight struck the joint. The bronze plate split. The giant fell onto 1 knee directly over the weakened floor. "Now!" Grum shouted. Breck pulled the chain. Nothing happened. 1 support had bent under the earlier impact. Breck looked at his injured leg. Then he looked at the mine opening. I knew what he planned. "No," I said. He was already moving. Breck crawled beneath the floor while the defenders attacked the giant's hands. He reached the bent support and struck it with his stone hammer. Once, twice. The bronze giant lifted its axe. Breck struck a 3rd time. The support broke. The floor collapsed. Grum jumped clear. The old knight caught him by 1 arm. The bronze giant fell into the mine with its axe, the command platform, and Lord Thalos. A cloud of clay and dust rose. The giant struck the bottom upside down, trapped at 140 health. Thalos landed in a cart of wet building clay beside it. His guards pulled him out with his white coat green from collar to boots. The gallery saw everything. Nobody laughed at first. Then Grum held up the broom handle. 600 students remembered the blue wolf and understood. The laughter rolled through the dungeon like thunder. Thalos stood in green clay while his level 30 summon lay trapped beneath a fortress built by the goblin he had called property. I did not join the laughter. Breck had not climbed out. We searched the lower channel while the old knight accepted the surrender of the remaining soldiers. Rusk's ash wolf protected the memory crystals when 2 armored summons tried to destroy them. Pavin announced each surrender above the public feed. We found Breck beneath the broken support. He was still holding his hammer. Asa checked him once and lowered her head. The citizen bond did not offer a revival. It recorded 1 specialist lost. Our mine profession closed. Ore sorting remained on the workbench, but safe extraction and advanced support design disappeared with him. Power had a price. This one could not be paid with gold. Grum carried Breck out on the same repaired shield that had carried him after the Red Maw fight. The public galleries became silent when they saw him. Thalos looked at the body. The clay on his face had begun to dry. He ordered his remaining forces to stand down. The capital notaries restored the hearing. Celine took her father's place at the table. She did not ask him to confess again. The crystals had recorded the mine workers, the cancelled vote, the attack, and the surrender. All 5 notaries recognized the free citizens. Even the 2 appointed by Thalos refused to support a decree enforced through a failed attack. The altered land deed was cancelled publicly. Celine proposed a new agreement. Surface families would keep their homes and farms. They would pay the same rents for 10 years, but 1/2 would rebuild the buried city. The academy would remain open under shared law. The old roads and mines would belong to the restored settlement. Xena accepted after adding protection for every family already living above. The agreement gave us 120 gold from the Thalos estate bond. 7 gold in unpaid route tolls arrived before sunset. With the 6 gold and 14 silver left after defense, our treasury reached 133 gold and 14 silver. 5 days earlier, I had owned 3 copper coins. My academy rank moved from 2nd to 1st. Grum received defender status and reached level 11. Xena became the recognized voice of the Old Crown. West Cellar Settlement became the Free Crown Enclave. The public board displayed 50 citizens instead of 51. The missing name was Breck. No cheer erased that line. We repaired the kitchen before the outer wall. Asa said hungry workers built crooked stones. That evening, the fortress held its first public meal. Surface farmers brought 2 boars, carrots, apples, and honey. Merchants brought dark bread and butter. Academy students carried benches through the broken gate. The soldiers who had surrendered helped clear stone. Asa roasted the boar until the skin became crisp and the meat pulled apart beneath a fork. She cooked carrots in butter and honey until their edges darkened. Onions softened in the roasting juice. Thick gravy covered slices of bread. Apples baked beside the fire with cinnamon in their hollow centers. The smell filled every ancient road. One place at the long table remained empty. Breck's hammer rested beside a full bowl. Grum stood before it. Mine closed, he said. Teacher gone. We learn again. Slow. He touched the bowl. Every citizen did the same. Then they ate. Warm food did not remove grief. It reminded us why survival mattered. Celine sat with the surface families. Xena gave her the dumpling recipe after changing one spice and refusing to say which one. Rusk remained near the door with his wolf. Nobody invited him closer. Nobody made him leave. Lissa found me on the repaired watch platform. Below us, Grum directed 3 builders while holding a piece of roasted meat in one hand. His orders were short. His new gate was already rising. He started with a broom, Lissa said. A broken broom. Important difference. She leaned against the stone beside me. What will you build now? A mine school, a clinic, better walls, enough food for winter. That sounds like more than one day. I am learning patience. She slipped her hand into mine. Slowly. There was no applause on the platform, no ranking crystal. That made the moment ours. The fortress bell rang before I could answer. Every green fire in the dungeon turned red. The ancient voice spoke from the throne room, the roads, and the surface markers at once. It recognized the Free Crown Enclave as the legal heir of the buried kingdom. Then, it revealed the final condition of restoration. Before the 7th dawn, the heirs had to raise their banner on the Academy's highest tower and reclaim the surface in sight of the capital. If they failed, the dungeon would close every road for another century. Pavin ran onto the platform carrying a message crystal. The Royal Summoner Council had rejected the hearing. Its central army was already marching toward the valley. 3,000 summoned soldiers would arrive before the 6th sunset. At their head walked a creature the Academy records described as level 60. Grum looked up at the tower above us. 5 days earlier, he had been an unarmed level 1 goblin with 9 minutes to live. Now he stood on his own fortress wall surrounded by 50 citizens, while a kingdom waited for his next command. He lifted the broken broom handle toward the surface. "Tomorrow," he said. "Roof,